Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What is Open Mic? Well, you see, during my live streams, Monday through Friday on the John Campea Show, we take time to take some live questions. But here on the weekends, all we do is like to take live open questions, and that's what we're going to do here. And happy Game of Thrones Day to everybody. It is the series finale of Game of Thrones. I got to tell you, there's mixed opinion out there. I acknowledge that. But to me, this is my second favorite season of Game of Thrones. I think this season has been spec-frickin-tacular. So good, as a matter of fact, that I think Game of Thrones has now jumped up into my top 5 all-time favorite television shows, and is probably now my number 4. Behind Battlestar Galactica, Sons of Anarchy, Spartacus, and now I think Game of Thrones. That's how much I know not everybody has, and that's totally fair. It's all subjective. That's great. But I think this season has been freaking wonderful. I've eaten up every single episode. Cannot wait for the finale tonight, and I hope you guys have a good time too. And hey, I'm going to let you guys know too, this is actually being pre-recorded. Now, I tried to do the stream live, but I had a technical glitch and the background intro music kept looping and it was interfering with people hearing my answers. So what I did was I stopped the live stream because it wasn't fair to the people who sent in questions to have their answers being given over a lot of music. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to re-record the whole thing. And we're going to make it nice and clear and crisp because you guys deserve that. So that's what I wanted to do here. So let's not waste any time. And we're going to dive right into it now and get to those questions that came in earlier. And maybe we can do so without major technical problems this time through. All right. With that down, let's dive right into it here. Jinyu Hitchi writes, happy 20th anniversary to Star Wars Episode 1. Man, it is. Now, I'm clearly not a Star Wars Episode 1 fan, but I still remember what an event that was when that came out. And it is so hard to believe it's been 20 years. Hard to believe it has been 20 years. Absolutely crazy. Ben Hayusa writes, my God, John Wick Chapter 3 is effing awesome. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you loved it, Ben. And I'll tell you what, I've had a couple days to think about it now. But I think I enjoyed John Wick Chapter 3 more than I enjoyed Endgame. You're not allowed to say that. I think I did. I think I did now that I thought about it for a couple days. Now, granted, I enjoyed Endgame so much. I've seen it 4 times in theaters. I'm probably going to go see at least one more. Maybe after I see John Wick 3 a couple of more times, maybe that'll even out a little bit and I'll go back to enjoying Endgame a little bit more. But as of right now, I got to say, I loved it so much. I don't think I've had a more fun experience in a movie theater this year than I did with John Wick. Again, I'm not sitting here definitively saying John Wick is a better movie than Endgame. I'm just saying I don't think I've had more fun in a theater this year than I did with John Wick. That was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. I loved it so much. Anyway, Santez Henderson writes, hey, John, thanks for checking me on my chauvinism on the Batwoman yesterday. I'm not against women empowerment. I'm all for it. I just want to say, and I apologize. And no apologies necessary, Santez, although I think that's very big of you to offer one anyway. But you just said something that all of us do from time to time. We all just speak that way sometimes. It's just something that we need to check ourselves every once in a while. And that includes this guy right here. I need to be checked on that once in a while too. So no apologies necessary, but it's very big of you to want to offer one anyway. All right. Ben Rayner writes, heard any whispers about Shaft? Buzz? No buzz yet. I personally don't know anybody that's seen it yet. And it's weird because I have not actually liked the trailers for it. But you know, Robert Meyer Burnett, who's on the John Campea Show usually Monday through Thursday with me, he's really enjoyed the trailers. And I gotta say, when I've been in a movie theater where they've played the trailer, the audience usually reacts to it pretty well. So I'm probably in the minority. I'm hoping I love the movie. I am looking forward to seeing it. I just got to admit that the trailers haven't worked for me, but I haven't heard any buzz about it yet, either positive or negative right now. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Eric Saul writes, kind of surprised to see Rocket Man with an R rating, yeah, but very excited. Big Elton John fan, and Egerton can sing his nuts off. Yes, he can. Favorite Elton John song? I think my favorite Elton John song is probably This Is Your Song, which I fell in love with in Moulin Rouge. Now, if you guys have been watching me for any period of time, you guys know I love Moulin Rouge. I love that film. It's such a kinetic experience of a film. It's absolutely amazing. Ewan McGregor's fantastic in it. But anyway, it was that movie and the performance of This Is Your Song in it that made me fall in love with that song. And to this day, it is my favorite Elton John song. All right. Farlow126 writes, I always thought Max Landis was a pretentious D-bag, but your recommendation of The Death and Return of Superman changed my view of him. Brilliant. Well, here's the thing, Farlow. And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, Max Landis years ago produced and put up on YouTube and put out online this video called The Death and Return of Superman, which is brilliant. It's funny, but it's also very brilliant. It's basically a video essay, analyzing way back in the day when they killed off Superman in the comics, and also then bringing him back and what the repercussions and some of the negative ramifications of that were. It's really smart and you should check it out. Now, you can be brilliant and be a pretentious douchebag. You can also be a really nice guy and be a pretentious douchebag. We all have that dichotomy in us. We can all be really nice and kind of be pretentious douchebags. All of us do. All of us. Max Landis is one of them. I've had a chance to be around Max Landis a couple times. I've had him in my studio once. Super nice guy. But I've also watched a lot of his interviews. Like, yeah, he can come across as a pretentious douchebag sometimes, but we all can, right? But the bottom line is he put together this amazing analysis, and I love his screenplay for Chronicle. Oh my God, he did such a good job on that. If you get a chance, if you have not watched this Death and Return of Superman on YouTube yet, take a few minutes out and go watch it. It's brilliant. The analysis is great. It's really funny way put together. You should go check it out. Anyway, thanks for that, Farlow. All right, NPE94 writes, I have hated pretty much everything non-Arya related about Game of Thrones Season 8, but I respect your opinion. Keep doing what you're doing, John. And hey, you're not alone, NPE. There are other people this year that really don't like what's going on in Game of Thrones. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's very different from what I and a lot of other people feel, but that's the nature of entertainment, right? That's the subjective nature of entertainment. Not everything's going to hit us the same way. I love what they're doing. You're clearly not, and there's nothing wrong with that. We can still be friends and talk about stuff. All right. NPE94 follows up and writes, Pattinson has 2 indie flicks getting great reviews this month, High Life and the new Eggers horror film, The Lighthouse, which I think sounds amazing. He'd be a great Batman. I agree. Now, I've been saying this all week, but it's true. He's not my first choice. Robert Pattinson wouldn't be my first choice to play Batman, but he is a great actor. He has been doing nothing for the last few years but crush it every single time. He's completely crushing it in all the movies he's in, from Good Time to The Rover to The Lost City of Z and on and on and on and on. He's been so good that even Christopher Nolan has anointed him as the next lead of his new movie coming out. I don't know if you can get a higher recommendation than that. The director of The Dark Knight just cast Robert Pattinson to be the lead in his new film. That should tell you all you need to know. And I think he's going to do a great job. All right. Rye Joe writes and sends in a really big super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel that way, Rye. Hey, John, big fan of the show. Thank you so much. Just wanted to say hi. I hope you are having a great day. I am having a great day. Thank you very much. You're awesome. Just recently watched Van Down by the River with Chris Farley. It got me thinking about Farley's style of comedy. My question is, how well would Farley's style of comedy work today? As somebody who didn't grow up watching him, I think his was for a different time and might not work as well today. Just my opinion, though. Keep up the great work. Ryan, it's a really interesting question. Chris Farley, and it's really relevant right now because Adam Sandler just hosted Saturday Night Live recently, and he did that big tribute to Chris Farley, which was really nice. How would Chris Farley have succeeded? To what degree would he have succeeded today? Were he around today instead of the era that he came? Now, it's funny because a friend of mine and I were not too awful long ago having a very similar discussion about John Candy. And I think my answer to this question, it would be a little bit different for Farley because Farley and Candy were actually quite different performers. But with Farley, you see, movies and television, they are the creations of their writers, but they're also created within a context. They're not created in a vacuum. They're created in a cultural context. And those cultural contexts influence how those films and stories are made. And I would suggest how comedians and performers do their craft in the ages that they're in the context and the cultural eras that they're in. Chris Farley was bold and fearless as a performer. He would do anything. And he had a particular style about his comedy that was just really hitting on the nerve of our culture in that cultural context at that time back in his SNL days. How would he do today? I have two separate minds on it. On the one hand, were Chris Farley around today performing the exact same way he did back then, I don't know that he would be as successful today, because our cultural context today is a little bit different. What hits well is a little bit different than what hit well 15 years ago or what hit well 20 years ago. I have no doubt we would know the name Chris Farley today, but I just don't know that that same style and that same approach to his comedic performances would have hit as hard today as they did back then. So that's one way of looking at it. My second way of looking at it, though, is that if Chris Farley were around today now instead of that era 15, 20 years ago, Chris Farley was also comedic genius. He himself would have been more of a product of today's cultural context than back when he was in SNL. I would therefore maybe make a case that his comedy and his performance stylings would be a little bit different today than they would have been 15, 20 years ago. That he would have designed his comedic performances to hit a little bit more in today's cultural context. So I would say this, there's two ways of looking at it. Number one, if you just picked up Chris Farley from his era and dropped it here, would it work as well? Probably not. However, I think Chris Farley, being the genius that he was, had he been brought up in this cultural context, he would have adjusted his comedic performance style to be more in tune with the current cultural context, and I think he would have found a way to make it hit harder today than it would have, say, back in the SNL days. So if he just dropped him today, no, not as successful. If he came up today like he did back then I think he would have been just as successful because he was just that talented. Anyway, good topic, Ryan. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Vrinder Singh writes, you often talk about Lucifer, so I decided to watch it, but Netflix only has season 4 and not the previous 3 seasons. Why is this? And any advice on where I can watch the others? Well, Vrinder, I gotta say, I believe all the seasons are on Netflix. I'm pretty sure all of the seasons are on Netflix. I'm almost positive about that. I know when I put on my Netflix, I have the options to watch any of the seasons. Maybe it's different in the UK. Maybe they have a different lineup on their Netflix. What I would suggest is this. When you select the show, go to more options and go to the episodes list, because it may by default just go right to the new season, season 4. But if you go and search within that, if you go to seasons and episodes, it should show you seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. They should be there. Again, maybe they don't do that in the UK, but I'm pretty positive they are here. So if any of you guys in the chat can help Vrinder out, let him know. But I'm pretty sure they are there, Vrinder. But let me know if it's not for sure, because I would think that it should be. Vrinder follows up with, I know it's old, but I just started watching Prison Break. Nice. I'm still on first season and enjoying it. Have you seen it? And what were your overall thoughts? I liked Prison Break. I will say this, though. For me, Prison Break, it wasn't as good as Heroes, but it kind of followed the same path as Heroes. It started really remarkably strong. But then, for me, it kind of went on a steady decrease in quality. Now, I've got friends who love Prison Break and who love the final season as much as they love the first season. And maybe you'll be that guy too. For me, it starts great and then slowly descends. That was just my impression with it. But good on you for watching it. Watch it through and let me know what you thought about it once you get to the end of it, man. All right. Dimsum05 writes, I'm sorry, John. I wanted to love John Wick 3 so much, but I just can't. The action to me felt like visual noise and almost made me numb. I guess the series, there he picks up down there, movies isn't for me. There was maybe 1 or 2 quick moments in the movie that I enjoyed, but nothing blew my socks off. Tried to love it, but I can't. And hey, you know what, Dim Sum? That's the thing. Like we said earlier about the Game of Thrones stuff, it's all subjective. You watch a movie and you either have a good experience with it or a bad experience with it. You have nothing to apologize for. You don't need to say you're sorry about it. Doesn't matter. You watch it, didn't work for you. No big deal. We move on. I don't like the original Blade Runner. I wish I did, but I don't. I often make this comparison. Watching entertainment and how we react to entertainment is much like how we react to food. You don't choose whether you like a piece of food or not. Your body tells you if you do. You can put a spoonful of a dish in your mouth and go, oh my gosh, and just have this incredible sensation that you love and enjoy. It's like, wow, that's great. I really enjoyed that. Or you put a spoonful in your mouth and you go, ugh. right? You don't pick it. Your body responds to it. Like somebody can have a hot wing with hot sauce on, take a bite and go, oh my God, it really heightens the flavor. It's so delicious. And just their body has a wonderful sensation to it. I take a bite of a hot wing and I collapse on the floor, curl up in the fetal position, begin to cry and ask for my mama to come and pour cold milk in my mouth. Cause that's how I respond to spicy food. That's how I respond to it. I don't choose to respond that way. That's the way I respond. You hear a joke, you either laugh or you don't. You don't choose to laugh unless you're faking it or choose to not laugh. It just hits you, and whether your person either finds it funny or you don't. And we're all going to react differently. You go to a comedy club, comedian tells a joke, half the audience laughs, half of it doesn't. Neither of them are right or wrong. It's just that what the joke did. You watched John Wick 3 and it didn't have that impact for you? No apologies necessary, man. We're all film fans, and that's the subjective nature of it. I loved it. That doesn't mean you're supposed to. And that's the great thing about being movie fans. All right, Farlow126 sends in a super chat. Thank you, Farlow. Vrinder Singh writes, I don't have a list of things I want to see in episode 9. I just want to leave the cinema feeling really happy and satisfied. That said, I really hope we get an epic lightsaber battle. Oh, I agree. Now, look. I don't go, like you said, I do not go into movies with a checkbox list. Like somebody asked me a while ago, John, what are the 3 things episode 9 needs to have for you to enjoy it? I'm like, no. I don't do that. I want the artist to make their art and then I'll go experience it. I'm not going to tell the artist what they're supposed to put in a movie I'm going to go see. That's the byproduct of entitled fandom. And I'm trying not to do that. Let's admit it. We all do it. I'm trying not to do it anymore because I've done that before in the past myself. I continue to do that a little bit. I try to catch myself when I'm doing it. But yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say, well, episode 9's got to have this and it's got to have this and it's got to have this. And if it doesn't have those things I want, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to do that anymore. I say, try not to do it anymore. But I'd be lying to you, Vrinder. Like deep down in my heart, I'm not kind of hoping, oh man, I'd love to see a good lightsaber fight. I want to see Luke Skywalker remanifest physically, pull out his lightsaber and start going to town on a bunch of fools. Of course I would. But I'm not going to make that a checkbox list of what the filmmakers need to do in order for me to enjoy it. I want the filmmakers to make their movie. That's what I want. I want the artists to make their movie. Not the movie I want them to make. Not the movie anybody else tells. I want them to make their movie. And then I'll go in and experience it. You know what's funny? There's a massive hypocrisy amongst film fans right now where it's like, oh, studios shouldn't interfere with the filmmakers. Studios shouldn't interfere. And the very first thing that film fans do now is try to interfere if a movie doesn't do what they want it to do. Let's start a petition to make them remake that because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. You know? Oh, studios don't interfere with the filmmakers, but I want to interfere with the filmmakers. I think there's a real hypocrisy amongst us right now. Now, let's face it, we all kind of do it. I'm not pointing at any one individual. I'm saying all. We've got this little hypocrisy streak in us as a film fandom right now. The director should make their movie. Unless it's the movie I don't want them to make, then I want them to do it my way. I mean, there's a real hypocrisy there. And it's something we've got to try to move beyond. It's something we got to try to get better. So I don't want to do that anymore. So do I deep down have some hopes of some things I want to see, like a really good epic lightsaber fight? Yeah. But I ain't going to make that a part of a checklist. I just want them to make their movie, and then I want to go and watch their movie. That's what I want, and hopefully it works out. So there we go. All right. Farlow126 also sends in a super chat again. Thank you so much, Farlow. Dim Sum. Oh, we already covered Dim Sum there. Static Space Sean writes, just saw a trailer for My Spy starring Dave Bautista. This is the second trailer I've seen with him starring. Other one is Stuber. Both look funny. Glad to see him getting bigger roles. He deserves it. He absolutely does, man. You know, I've talked about Dave a number of times. I've had the chance on a couple of occasions to go and sit down and talk with Dave. I have never in this business met a more humble, grounded guy who every time I've talked to him, he's always just been, I'm so grateful they've given me a guy of limited talent right now. I'm working hard, but right now I've limited talent that I've been given these opportunities to try to get better and try to improve. I've never seen a guy with a more humble, grateful approach to being in the movies than Dave Bautista does. And because he's so humble and because he's so grateful, it motivates him to work even harder to deserve it. He makes him work even harder to try to earn it. And he's learned a lot. He's worked his ass off over the last number of years to try to get better and better and better. And we've seen him get better. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest. When I heard about Stuber, I thought this sounds kind of dumb, even though I adore Kumail Nanjiani. I love him. The Big Sick is one of my biggest surprise movies in the last decade. I love that film. And I'm a big fan of Dave Bautista, but I gotta admit, it was like, okay, this sounds like it's going to be a throwaway, sad kind of comedy. And then they showed us some footage at CinemaCon, and me and the whole audience were laughing our guts out. It was so good. It looks so fun. I can't wait to see it, and it could not happen to a nicer guy. So I'm both looking forward to that. My Spy. Let's see how the evolution of Dave Bautista continues on. All right. Dim5 writes, on the other hand, I freaking loved Pikachu and loved the somewhat obvious twist at the end. Had a good time overall. I'm becoming a softie. Oh, well, look, here's the thing about Pikachu. I don't think it's a very good movie, but it is undeniably adorable. And there are some good laughs in it. Structurally, as a movie, it's a pretty poorly made movie. But if what you're going into that movie for is to see some adorable Pokemon and to have a couple of good laughs, and particularly if you're a Pokemon fan, there's a lot of fan service in it. And I mean that in a good way. There's a lot of fan service in it. I think you're going to have a good time. Again, I don't think it's all that well made of a movie, but can't deny it's pretty adorable. Can't deny that. So I'll give you that. All right. Logan James Kynaston writes, do you have a favorite biopic? Mine is Nowhere Boy with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who doesn't get enough work these days, to be honest with you. Playing a young John Lennon. I highly recommend it. Probably not one for me. Look, I'm not actually a Beatles or a John Lennon fan, to be honest with you. That aside, favorite biopic. There have been a lot of good. Walk the Line is incredible. I'm not a country music fan, but oh my God, Walk the Line is really great. Beyond that, I'd have to think more about it. It's not a genre I carry around at the top of my head all the time, but it's hard to top Walk the Line. Walk the Line is pretty damn impressive. So First Man was really great, although that was more about an event than it was a biopic. So I'd have to think about it more. But for now, I'm going to throw out First Man. For now, I'm going to throw out Walk the Line. That's the one I'm going to throw out there for now. Let's see. Chris Feldman writes, is there a movie where your opinion, good or bad, differs widely from the general consensus? Mine is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I don't get it. Oh, I mentioned mine a little bit earlier. The biggest divide between me and most other of my film fans, and we've all got one or two. We've all got one or two movies, maybe even 3, 4, or 5, out of the thousands of movies out there that we like or hate, that the majority of everybody else feels the opposite. We've all got 4 or 5 of those. For me, the big obvious one is Blade Runner. And the original Halloween. I'm not big on the original Halloween. I think the newest Halloween movie is the best Halloween movie that's ever been made. Because I, quite frankly, have not enjoyed really any of the rest of them. But the biggest one is Blade Runner. I like Blade Runner 2049, but I'm not a fan of the original Blade Runner. I acknowledge it's an all-time classic and that it's beloved and everybody loves it, and that's no problem. I acknowledge that completely. But if I'm going to be honest, and I just don't want to pretend to be cool and tell you what I think you want to hear, if I'm going to be honest, I've never liked it that much. I wish I did, but I don't. So that's probably the big one for me, Chris. But we've all got a number of those. Just some people won't admit it. I do. I admit it. So there you go. Okay. Nathan Oswald writes, Roadhouse turns what? Roadhouse turns 30? Wow. Oh, Dalton. 30 years old, Sam Elliott, who is as good as ever these days. Oh, man, Roadhouse, be nice. God, I love Roadhouse. 30? I had no, oh my God. Talking about feeling old, Nathan. Okay. Nathan Oswald writes, what's with Michael Keaton playing flying creature roles? Batman, Birdman, Vulture. Yeah, well, he's found something that works for him. He certainly has. How good was he as Vulture, by the way, in Spider-Man Far From Home? I mean, I think we were all excited when we found out Michael Keaton was going to play the villain in Homecoming. But I'll be honest, I'm a big Michael Keaton fan, but I didn't expect him to so seamlessly float right into the big comic book genre. He just floated right into that movie and just owned it like he's a vet. I know he did Batman, but that was a different era ago, folks. I just couldn't believe how flawlessly and effortlessly he came into this movie and did such a great job on it. One of the reasons why I love that movie so much. All right. Amit Suresh writes, Like Infinity War, can't Strange use the Time Stone to predict every MCU movie, future villains and deaths? I don't know. I don't know. That's either a plot hole that they've set up with all that, or maybe that's just not the way the Time Stone works. So they've never been really clear, and I think on purpose to hide their plot holes. They've never been really clear on what he can and cannot do with the Time Stone. But he doesn't have the Time Stone anymore. Well, then just use the time machine and go to a different time and get the Time Stone. I mean, they totally could do that. They really could. So, but I don't think he's going to. But they've never been really being clear. And I think the reason they've been pretty ambiguous about what he can and can't do with the Time Stone is to cover up any potential plot holes that their uses or lack thereof of the Time Stone would cause. Patrick Conway writes, so do you think Loki a supervillain show now? I don't know. You see, one of the brilliant things about Loki as a character was that he's always been multidimensional. Like even in the first Thor movie where he's the villain, his motivation is he just wants the love and the respect of his father. He wants to get out from his brother's shadow. He goes about it the wrong way and all that kind of stuff, but he loves his father. He loves Odin. He loves his mother, Frigga. That's one of the beautiful things about the Loki character. There are so many elements and sides and dimensions to him that I don't know how they're going to approach this supervillain show or this Loki show on Disney+. It'll be interesting to see. But I don't think it's going to be a straight up supervillain show. No. Colin Caponito writes, will we continue to see War Machine in the MCU? I don't see why not. Don Cheadle's getting older. He is getting older. Let me just double check here. See, I believe he's 54. I believe he's 54. Let me find that out here. Where did he go? He is 54. Don Cheadle turns 55 this year. I don't know how much longer he can go, but I mean, he's in great shape. He's a fabulous actor. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think he can... Look, War Machine is a great utility player in the MCU. And I mean that really, really highly. Because he is the type of character you can very casually drop into almost any MCU movie and have him being a supporting character. And be a great one. So I hope they keep him around. I really do. Nathan Oswald writes, as bad as Theodore Rex is, yep, the animatronics are fairly decent, though. Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, they did some things at the time that were kind of different and new and something we hadn't really seen before, at least not done that well. So you're right on both counts. The animatronics were great. The movie's absolutely horrible, though. Thunder Knight writes, thoughts on the His Dark Materials teaser? I still haven't watched it. Somebody mentioned that to me on my show yesterday that the trailer dropped. I hadn't had a chance to watch it yet. So I'll let you know maybe on tomorrow's show if that comes up again. Hopefully by then I will have seen it. ZMG Ruler writes, saw Life with Pattinson yesterday. He is talented. Dude is sick. He's sick good. That's the bottom line. And look, there are going to be people out there who just legitimately go, I've seen all of Pattinson's movies and he just doesn't quite work for me and I don't think he's going to be a good Batman. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there are also a bunch of crybabies out there who have never seen a single Rob Pattinson film outside of Twilight and go, what, the Twilight guy? Have you ever seen any of his other movies? No, I don't want to watch a movie with the Twilight guy. Okay, then just shut up. You don't get to have an opinion here. Again, there are people who have seen him and don't think he's all that good. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, then there are a bunch of crybabies. Right, the Twilight guy? Have you ever seen any other Rob Pattinson film? No, then you don't get a say. If you have not seen his work, you don't get to give commentary on his work. So How's that? Anyway, that's how I feel about that. Anyway, Justified Fun writes, your thoughts on The Long Kiss Goodnight? I love The Long Kiss Goodnight. I love that movie. Gina Davis is so good. Let me just, now, wait a second. I've already started talking here. Maybe I should have double checked. Let me just make sure I'm not accidentally thinking of a different movie. But if I'm not mistaken, Samuel L. Jackson is one of the first films that I really recognize Samuel L. Jackson in as well. Yep. Long Kiss Goodnight, 1996, Samuel L. Jackson, Gina Davis. I love that movie. And it was one of the, there's this trope now. It's like somebody realizes they've got these, wait a minute, how do I have all these super skills, right? We've seen that done before. The first one I ever remember seeing it in, though, was The Long Kiss Goodnight. I really, really like that movie. So if you guys haven't had a chance to see it, do check it out because I think it's quite good. Okay, Nathan Oswald writes, I don't care. I love Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Good on you. I wish I did too. But you know what? Here's my interesting thing about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I've always said this. I think if you change the name of the movie and have the hero in it named Buck Swashbuckler, that's the name of the hero in the movie, is Buck Swashbuckler. If the name of this movie is Buck Swashbuckler and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's probably not a bad little movie. The problem is it's an Indiana Jones movie. And I think that's where a big disconnect happened with a lot of people. Expected more and something different from a Indiana Jones film. It doesn't live up to the name of Indiana Jones. But I still contend, if that movie were with a different character as its hero, wasn't connected in the Indiana Jones world, and it was just called Buck Swashbuckler, I think a lot of people go, that movie's not bad. But anyway, it's all subjective. You watched it and loved it. That's awesome. Make no apologies, Nathan. All right. Chris Feldman writes, favorite Kevin Smith movie? I get asked that all the time. It's an easy one. Mine are Clerks and Chasing Amy. Also, the two with the smallest budgets. Do you think sometimes bigger budgets hurt a movie? No, I don't think bigger budgets hurt a movie. Not at all. But again, they don't guarantee a better film either. Bigger budgets don't guarantee a better film, but I don't think they hurt a movie in any way, shape, or form. If that was the case, Avengers Endgame would be the worst film ever made. Since they spent more money on that film than any other film I can think of. They spent $357 million on that movie, which is utterly ridiculous. Anyway, my favorite Kevin Smith film is actually Clerks 2. That movie to me had more heart and really spoke. I've told this story before, but it spoke to a situation. I remember I saw it because one of the central themes of the movie is one of the friends is now contemplating moving away from his friends and family in his life, moving away to pursue his career, right? And to get a better job. And that's what a lot of people do. They move away from their homes and whatever to go and pursue their careers. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I remember at the time that I saw that, I was struggling with that. I was in that situation. I was struggling with, do I pursue something else, but it would require me to move away from friends and family that I've established here and that I love. And what's more important in life, my friends and family or my career? And it was really, there is no right or wrong answer. And this movie doesn't propose a right or wrong answer. But I just remember it spoke to me so much at the time. And to me, it has amidst all the donkey jokes and amidst all the vulgar, filthy humor, which is hilarious, the movie has real heart. So does Chasing Amy. Absolutely, it's brilliant as well. But for me, Clerks 2, to this day remains my favorite Kevin Smith movie. Absolutely my favorite. Ryan Lohner writes, one of two. The new DuckTales has racked up an amazing group of actors: David Tennant, Danny Pudi, Ben Schwartz, Jim Rash, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Paul F. Tompkins, Catherine Tate, Margot Martindale, Lance Reddick, Allison Janney, Michael Chiklis, Julie Brown. Again, I don't know much about the new DuckTales. I'm assuming it's animated. To me, it's not a big deal getting voice, like people come into a studio for 2 or 3 hours to stand into a sound booth, speak into a mic and walk out. That to me doesn't make anything that much better. There are very, 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 very few times in my life when I've thought, oh, this celebrity actor doing a voice in an animated movie can make the movie better. I would personally rather trained voice actors who do this for a living. They're better at it. They're better at it. Now, for all I know, the new DuckTales is fantastic. I haven't seen it. I don't know much about it. But a list of impressive names doing animated voices doesn't impress me that much. To be honest, never has, to be honest with you. So anyway, there's that. Jared McBride writes, Robert Pattinson would not have been my first choice, but we will have to see when we see him in the Batsuit and the first trailer, he might surprise us. Again, I agree, Jared. He's not my first choice, but I cannot escape that the dude's a tremendously gifted actor. He will do a good job. The question is really, what kind of Batman does Matt Reeves write? That's the question. To me, I have no doubt Robert Pattinson is going to deliver a good performance. He'll deliver exactly what Matt Reeves wants. He'll do it. He's that caliber of an actor that he can do it. The question to me is actually, what kind of Batman does Matt Reeves write that Pattinson now has to come in and bring to life? That's the question. Now, I got a lot of faith in Matt Reeves. So let's see how that turns out. But I have zero doubt that Pattinson's going to do a good job as enacting it. He's going to do a very good job acting in it. But again, you're right. Let's just hold our breath and wait and see when the first bits of footage and maybe the first trailer drops. All right. Adrian Foley writes, it was more than just an effing dog. I just saw John Wick for the first time. Wow, it was violent, but it was very good. Keanu and Dafoe are incredible. Oh, you're talking about the first John Wick. Oh my God, I love that movie. That I talk about every once in a while about real surprise movies. Keanu Reeves at that time, and a lot of people forget this now, we have very, very short memories. At that time, Keanu Reeves was a name that if he was attached to a movie, there was a little bit of an eye roll. Like, right? That's what he had come to at that point. So John Wick's coming out. And by the way, they don't drop the first trailer for that movie until 1 month before it opened. And the trailer looked pretty good. So surprised at how good that is. Like, I love watching movies that just completely catch you by surprise. That first John Wick was absolutely one. I totally forgot about Dafoe in the first one too. Love this movie. Adore this movie. Can't get enough. But number 3 is the best of the bunch. Number 3 is the best of the bunch. I can't wait for you to get caught up, Aiden. All right. Thanks for sharing that, man. Mickey Alteri writes, I have no desire to even watch the Game of Thrones finale. Like, I never thought I could go from loving something so much to absolutely hating it as fast as I did with this show. That's unfortunate. I think it's brilliant. I can't imagine it being any better, to be honest with you. But, you know, we all have different opinions on it. And, you know, you need make no apologies for your dislike of this season. I think this season has been the perfect crescendo to this series. I think it's been the perfect crescendo to this series. I've loved it. I've adored it. It's made me love Game of Thrones even more than I did before. Again, I've never been the biggest Game of Thrones fan, but this season I think has been absolutely brilliant. But not everybody feels the same way. Not everybody feels the same way, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right. Next up, Christopher James writes, Nebula should have gave Team Soulstone a heads up. I don't know that she knew anything. Nebula didn't know. Remember, all Nebula knew was that Gamora and Thanos went to Vormir to get the Soul Stone. Thanos came back and her sister didn't. That's all she knew. She never knew what happened on the planet. She didn't know about the Red Skull. She didn't know about any of that. So there really was nothing that she could tell them. Angus Dustagear writes, Hey, John, I just read they are making a Passion of the Christ sequel all about the resurrection. I have high hopes. That could be incredible. Well, they've actually been talking about that for about a good 4 years. They've been talking about doing that for a good 4 years. So I honestly don't know where they're at on that. Let me just bring something up here quickly. Hold a second. Maybe if I wrote it correctly. So there we go. Let's see if there's any recent news. I mean, it was well over a year ago that they said, oh, they're really going to do it. They're really going to do it. But honestly, I haven't heard anything more. For all I know, they're in production right now. I just don't know. I haven't been following it. But they've been talking about doing this for years and years and years. I just don't know if it's actually going to get off the ground. Or again, maybe it's already shot for all I know. I haven't been following it. So we'll keep our eyes open for that. First one was an amazing success. All right. Chris Fieldman writes, best guess on the next movie to spend more than 1 week at number one. Ooh, that's an interesting question. Okay, so John Wick will not be at number one again next weekend because next weekend we've got Aladdin opening up. Aladdin will not be number one for more than a week because then we've got Godzilla King of the Monsters opening up. Godzilla King of the Monsters could be number one the following week when Dark Phoenix opens. It's possible. If Godzilla can open to 60 to 70, which is beyond what they're projecting, just to be fair, but if it can open to 60 to 70, that means we could probably expect it to be about 35 million on its second week. And I don't know that Dark Phoenix is going to make 35 million on its opening weekend. So maybe Godzilla. But if it doesn't, Dark Phoenix isn't going to be number one for more than 1 weekend because the next weekend is Men in Black International. That's not going to be number one for more than 1 weekend because the next week is Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 will be number one at the box office for a couple of weeks because the following Friday after Toy Story 4, the biggest film coming out is Yesterday. That's not going to be a huge blockbuster hit. And then Annabelle Comes Home, which will do well, but Toy Story could end up being number one for 3 weeks in a row. So the only movie I see right now that is a lock to be number one at the box office for more than 1 week is Toy Story 4. That does not open until June 21st. So we're going to see a rapid changing of the guard at the number one spot at the box office coming and going for a little while now. Okay. The Boom writes, Rocketman was a damn good movie. Definitely worth it. Good to hear it. I still haven't watched it myself, but I'm very excited to check it out. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, The Boom. Neil Before Zimmer sends in a really large super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Neil Before Zimmer. That's really nice of you to support the channel on that level. Hey, John. Just graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering. Good on you, man. I just wanted to say thanks for keeping me entertained and informed for the last 6 years I've followed you. My life has had many ups and downs, but you've always brought the filthies. Oh, man, thank you so much for sharing that. First of all, congratulations on graduating, man. That is a huge accomplishment, particularly in a field like electrical engineering. Good on you. That takes a lot of endurance. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of determination. It takes a lot of dedication, and you did it. So congratulations on that. And also, it's one of the great things of the film fan community, man. The film fan, no matter what we're going through, the film fan community is always here that we can, I can come to it. You can come to it, whatever. We can come to it. Just, get immersed in talking about our fun things, movies and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. And when we give ourselves a little bit of a break, we gain better perspective on the challenges we face in the real world. Movies and talking about movies and all that doesn't fix our problems. Well, what it does do, I've always said this, is it gives our minds a momentary reprieve from the things we're dealing with. And when we give our minds a bit of a rest like that, and then we come back into the problems or the challenges that we're facing, we can have a renewed perspective, a fresher, clearer mind, and we can maybe think of things that we hadn't thought of before. Again, movies and talking with other movie fans doesn't fix our problems, but it can put our mind in a better state to better deal with the challenges that we're facing. I know that has been true for me in my life many times. There have been a lot of times that something crappy has happened and I'm like, and I either go immerse myself in a good movie conversation or I put on a movie that I love. And then when I'm done, the challenge is still there, but I see it a little bit differently. I see it a little bit more clearly. I'm able to have a little bit of a different perspective on it now, and that makes life better. And I'm glad the film fan community has been able to be here for you, Neil, as you've been going through your stuff and getting that degree, and that's awesome. And thank you for sharing your experience. I really love hearing that. Thanks, man. I love that. All right. Damian Davies writes, did you enjoy the Smallville iteration of Green Arrow played by Justin Hartley and the Justice League episode they did with Cyborg, Aquaman, and Flash? I'll tell you what, I did enjoy Justin Hartley as Green Arrow. I did. It was very much an Elseworlds Green Arrow, but I liked him. It got a little bit silly later on. I wasn't big on their whole Justice League. I'll be honest, I wasn't big on their Justice League version. But in general, Justin Hartley, who is now, of course, in This Is Us and killing it on This Is Us, I liked his Green Arrow. I like Stephen Amell's a little bit better, but I did like his Green Arrow. I did. I thought it was a really cool iteration of it. So that was just my thought on that. Anyway, Murray Reich writes, that season finale of The Blacklist was very good. Do you think they should wrap up the series next season? I think so, because where can they go already? I think if people are still watching and liking it, keep going. Look, I actually there are two different types of shows, right? Serials and procedurals. You have one type that is like episodic, where you can jump in any episode, right? It's a villain of the week kind of show, or a mystery of the week. Murder, She Wrote, Matlock, Law and Order, things like that, right? You can just jump in and every show is like a self-contained episode. Then you have your other types of shows, which are ongoing stories. Game of Thrones, things like that. Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy. So you have different shows like that. The Blacklist is a bit of a mix of both, but it does have a very strong episode of the week or villain of the week kind of stuff with the Blacklist number 029, so-and-so, right? And as long as you're making that fun and entertaining and the audience is liking it, keep going. Why not? If you're having a good time making it and the audience is having a good time watching it, and you can maintain that episode of the week, villain of the week kind of motif while having a little bit of a storyline in there, keep going. I mean, if you want to end it. They've already had a bunch of seasons. This show has already lasted longer than most shows, but if they can keep going, why not? Just keep going, because they have that approach to it that shows like Sons of Anarchy didn't, shows like Game of Thrones don't, shows like Breaking Bad didn't, that sort of thing. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Let's see. Damian Davies writes, the best actor who got their start in a slasher movie: Kevin Bacon from Friday the 13th, Jamie Lee Curtis from Halloween, or Johnny Depp from Nightmare on Elm Street. Been a viewer since the AMC days. Well, thank you so much, Damian, and thanks for being along ever since then. I got to go with Johnny Depp. Look, whatever train wreck drama Johnny Depp has got going on, and whatever decisions he's made with his career and whatever, Johnny Depp is a world-class actor. World class. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I really like Kevin Bacon. But I think out of that list, you got to go Johnny Depp. I think Johnny Depp might be the only one with a legit Academy Award nomination as well, I think. I don't think Jamie Lee Curtis has one. I could be wrong about that. But I'm going to go Johnny Depp on that. I think he's the best actor out of the bunch. But that is quite an alumni there, isn't it? Kevin Bacon, Jamie Lee Curtis, Johnny Depp. When you think about it in those terms, that really is an impressive an alumni, Damien. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, man. So I'm going to go with Johnny Depp on that. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, have you seen Walter Hill's The Assignment? Michelle Rodriguez is a male hitman who's turned into a woman by a quack surgeon, Sigourney Weaver. No, I have not. I can safely say, let me just look this up. I can safely say I've never heard of this. It's a 2016 movie. Clearly, it never hit theaters. Michelle Rodriguez. Tony Shalhoub is in it as well? Really? Sigourney Weaver. Wow. That's a pretty impressive list. I can tell you, I have not seen it. I don't know where it doesn't got a very good rating, but that's okay. I don't even know where I would have seen it, but no, I've never even heard of that movie, to be honest with you. Wow. That's pulling out a deep cut there, Ryan. Okay. The Hero writes, hey, any news on a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot? Well, they just did one a few years ago. And it didn't do very well. And other than that, no, I haven't heard anything on a new one other than that. Murray Reich writes, when does the review embargo lift for Brightburn? Also, when are you seeing it? I'm going to see it opening night. I'm going to go see it opening night. But I don't know when the review embargo lifts, though. Of that, I have no knowledge or anything like that right now. Murray Reich writes, in the last 2 years, Aaron Rodgers has spent more time in Game of Thrones than he has in the playoffs. Yeah, for those of you who missed it, he revealed the other day that he did a cameo in Game of Thrones. He was like one of the soldiers. He might have been one of the Golden Company. I'm not 100% sure. That is funny the way you phrase that, Murray. He spent more time in Game of Thrones than he has in the playoffs. Well done, sir. Well done. Well played. Well played. All right. Jonathan Howard writes, DCEU Justice League versus original MCU Avengers. In what way? Like, which one is better? Who would win in a fight? I don't know what you're talking about. Quality-wise, original Avengers. Who wins in that fight? Probably Justice League, just because that's it. They've got Superman. Nothing else matters. You've got Superman, you win. But John Thor, I don't care. If you got Superman, you win. unless you're Batman. but I don't know what it is you're asking specifically, but those are my thoughts on that. Joseph Mitchell writes, higher body count, Thanos or John Wick? I'm telling you what, I'm watching John Wick 3 and I'm thinking, if the Avengers, like if the portals had opened on that battlefield, and instead of everybody else, only John Wick came walking through that portal to join Captain America, I'm pretty sure they would have won. I'm pretty sure John Wick just would have wiped everybody out. I'm just, seriously, it's like I'm just in awe of it. So technically speaking, I guess by a little bit Thanos, because he had the advantage of being able to kill people even off Earth, whereas John Wick is only limited to killing people on Earth. So I'll give the nod to Thanos, but even then, not by much. Joseph Mitchell writes, 2 biggest beefs with Endgame. We never find out why is Gamora. And we get Howard the Duck coming out of the portals, but no John Campea from Hulk. WTF, Russo's. Well, how do you know I wasn't one of the soldiers that you just couldn't see very well? Because remember, the thousands come through the portals. How do you know my character wasn't one of them? I'm just saying. Let the mystery continue. And yes, we never did find out why is Gamora. Very good observation. Lord of Thunder, Prince of Stars writes, still wonder how Thanos' ship snuck up on Heimdall. I think the best way is just to say he simply wasn't looking. I mean, if he's looking, nothing can escape his sight, but I think he's got to be looking, maybe? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Lord of Thunder, I've never thought about that. I never considered that. That'll be my first guess, but honestly, I don't know. It's a very good thing to bring up. Patrick Conway writes, over under 50%, you can take down Arnold with a dropkick. I could take down Arnold with a dropkick, provided Arnold has his back to me and he's not expecting it. If Arnold has his back to me and not expecting it, I'm a good 220 pounds. I'm pretty sure I should be able to floor Arnold Schwarzenegger with a dropkick. Now, of course, that all happens prior to him then getting back up and turning my body into a living pretzel. But in getting in that one shot where I get to sneak up behind him without him expecting it, and a 220-pound frame, being able to drop kick him in the back. By the way, did you guys see that video? Arnold barely budged. A 71-year-old man. Unexpecting it. Dude from behind, full-fledged missile drop kicking him in the back. And Arnold's just like, what was that? A fly hit me. That's I can't do Arnold Schwarzenegger. A fly hit me. Like, it's like, oh my God. Oh my God. And that little cream puff of a wimp, he's never going to live that down. That little coward that tried to cheap shot him like that. Cheap shotting a 71-year-old man in the back. I seriously hope that guy gets some comeuppance. I really do. Anyway. But yes, if I had snuck up with a 220-pound frame and Arnold was completely not expecting it, I will put him on the floor. He will then, of course, proceed to get up and turn me into a living pretzel. But that first shot, I'd put him on the floor. Okay. Let's see. James Hoffman writes, both Arrow and The Flash's season finales had quite the emotional endings, and I like the setup / tease for Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm excited. I actually quite liked The Flash's season finale. I did. I liked it. I don't think I've watched... I think I tapped out again. This is like the second time I've tapped out on Green Arrow. This season started with a lot of promise for me. Like the whole prison thing and everything, I was really digging all that. But the flash forward stuff has not worked for me. I understand they couldn't do flashbacks anymore because they've caught up. But the flash forward stuff to me has been a total waste. I haven't liked it at all. So I don't even know that I've seen the final episode. I don't know if that I'm interested, but I did like the Flash's one. I did like the Flash's one. Trevor Johnson writes, hear anything about the Tomorrow Man starring John Lithgow and Blythe Danner? Looks like an adorable rom-com drama that has me super excited since the trailer. I don't think I've seen it. I'll be honest, I don't think I've seen it. Hold on a second. Let me just pull this up. The Tomorrow Man, which comes out. When does this thing come out? Oh, it comes out this month. Oh, no, I don't know much about it. I do not know much about it. Yeah, Yeah, I haven't seen the trailer. I love Jonathan Lithgow though, so I got to go. Too bad about Pet Sematary. I like John Lithgow though, so I'm gonna have to go check that trailer out. Thanks for putting it on my radar, Trevor. Zach Bartran writes, "Have you watched the documentary A Grand Night In, the story of Aardman about the production company behind Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep? It's really cool." I have not. But I like those movies, so I'm going to have to check that out. I will have to check that out. Is that something that's a theatrical thing, or is that on Netflix or Hulu now? Do me a favor, Zach. Can you do me a favor and email me, john@thejohncampeashow.com? Send me an email. Let me know where I can find that, because you've got me interested. Because I do like that company, and I'd be curious to see anything about them. That sounds really cool. Again, thank you for putting it on my radar. Jacob Ibarra writes, "Okay, Boss Logic is good, but have you also heard of Dat Trinity? He's almost, if not just as good. If so, have you seen his new Robert Pattinson art as Batman?" I have not. I've never heard of that guy, but you know what? Let me take that and see if I can find anything on him. Let me see here. I've never heard of the guy, to be honest with you, but I will look up some stuff. Oh, if he's the guy who did... All right, I've seen this. Okay, I've seen this. Let me bring this up here for a second. This is a very popular image of Zachary Levi as Shazam that made its way around after they announced that he was going to star in the movie. And I've seen this 1,000 times, but I did not know is from the same guy, Dat Trinity. So I've loved this image, so I'm going to have to look up more of that. So no, I've never been aware of his name, Jacob, but thank you for putting him on my radar. I'm going to have to look up more from this guy, because I love Boss Logic is just a treasure to the fan community, but that's really good stuff too. I'm going to have to look that up. Thank you for that. All right. Dominic Francis writes, "What I love about Endgame is how they take Nebula, Ant-Man, and Rhodey and give them all moments to shine. Paul Rudd's best performance as Ant-Man, in my opinion." I loved him as Ant-Man in this movie. I think my favorite performance of his as Ant-Man is still Ant-Man 1. That is still my favorite, but I thought he was great in Endgame. And you're right. I think it's wonderful that these characters that have always been a little bit more in the background, not so much Nebula, Nebula, absolutely Nebula. I was thinking Gamora for a second. Nebula, Ant-Man's had 2 of his own solo movies, so that's a different thing. But Nebula, Rhodey, they really did give them moments to shine. Rocket probably had more moments to shine in this movie than even in Guardians movies for a lot, and that is one of the big strengths of the movie. I completely agree with you, Dominic. Suthius writes, "Hey, Mr. C, so the latest episode of Doom Patrol, oh my goodness, I lost at the beginning. I flexed the wrong muscle." This show keeps getting more and more bonkers, and I love it more and more. This strongman character they just brought in, oh my God. It's amazing. And I didn't think it could get more bonkers than the Danny the Street episode, which might still be the most bonkers one they've done and the most brilliant. But this latest one too is just fantastic. I love what they're doing on this show. God, I cannot believe the imagination and the creativity and how they pull this crap off. No idea, but I've been absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it. Let's see. Where are we at here? Hector Jeter writes, "About to see John Wick 3 in about 30 minutes in Dolby. Nice, dude. And sit back, enjoy yourself. You're about to have a hell of a roller coaster ride. You're about to have a hell of a ride. Make sure I want you to have a really good time, man." Okay. Trevor Johnson writes, "Not popular, but my favorite Iron Man is 2. I loved Rourke, Rockwell, the new suits, and Dad's subplot brought a tear to my eye. Holds a special place for me, dude. And therein lies the beauty of the subjectivity of film. This is why the subjectivity of film is not just something we have to accept. It is the best part about being a film fan. Some people act like, oh, we just got to accept that film is subjective. No. The subjectivity of film is the best thing about being a film fan. You know why? Because you take a movie like Iron Man 2 that a lot of people don't like, and I admit I'm not a fan of it. But the subjectivity of film means that there are going to be people that can see the beauty in it. And it has something that, regardless of what other people think, there are still going to be people who see something in it that we don't. And that it affects people in a beautiful way that maybe it didn't affect the rest of us in. That is a great thing about entertainment. That is a great thing about the movies. is that every movie out there, it could affect somebody, regardless of whether the majority like it or dislike it. It could affect somebody in a really good way. And I love the way you just put that, Trevor, that the subplot of the father brought a tear to your eye. It hit home for you. And the beauty of the subjectivity of film is that just because it's a movie that a lot of us don't appreciate doesn't mean it doesn't have something to contribute to the fan community, because there are people out there that it will affect positively. And that is a great thing. Again, I'm not hesitant to tell you that I'm not a big fan of Iron Man 2, but I love that you liked it. I love that you liked it. And that's to be celebrated. So thanks for sharing that, Trevor. Okay. The Hero writes, unless Endgame hits 2.9 billion, Avatar's profit wins. Nobody measures it by that material, though. The box office record is not by profit margin. That's a different conversation altogether, and not really that important, to be honest. The big thing here is the biggest all-time box office record. It's still, Endgame is now running out of gas. It's still about 170 plus million short of Avatar. I still think it'll catch it. But it is running out of gas, and it's running out of time to do it. I still think it'll do it. I think it's what has become very clear now is that it is not going to catch The Force Awakens for the all-time domestic record. It looked like that was a foregone conclusion when it opened up worth like over $300 million. It looked like that was a foregone conclusion. However, now I really don't think it's going to catch The Force Awakens. I still think it'll catch Avatar for the big one, for the all-time worldwide, but I don't think it's going to catch the U.S. box office record at this point. Senior Eric writes, good time is my favorite Pattinson performance. Hard to argue. Again, I still go Rover, but he's so freaking good in Good Time. It's unbelievable. Not a bad pick at all, Senior Eric. Not a bad pick at all. All right. Patrick Conway writes, hope Lucasfilm reboots the Young Indy series for Disney Plus, because it seems like Indy 5 doesn't seem like it's happening. Have Spielberg produce it. Well, Spielberg will do what he wants to. You know what's funny? This whole Indy 5 thing, they keep saying they're going to do it, but it keeps getting delayed. And now it's not even, they're saying it's not even going to come out till 2021? Or did they just bump it to 2022? Anyway, they're running out of time. And Patrick, you got to forgive me, but I'm like you. I've come to a place with Indy 5 that I just won't believe it until I see it. I'm just not going to believe it till you got something to show me. They can keep talking about how they're doing it. They can keep talking about how they're doing it. They can keep talking about how they're doing it. But until I see it now, I just don't know that I buy it anymore, because it's just getting delayed too much. All right. Kian Shingler writes, John, have you seen this? This Is England? Great movie, and the TV episodes are just as good. Would recommend it if you haven't. I have never even heard of This Is England. Never even heard of it, my friend. Let me just bring this up here. So it's a movie and TV episodes? 1 second. So it's a 2006. It was the winner of the British Independent Film Awards. I have never even heard of it. I know Stephen Graham's in it. Okay, cool. No, I've never even heard of the movie, nor have I heard of the series. Thank you for putting it on my radar, Keen. I'm going to have to check this out at some point. Thank you. All right. Javier Riaz writes, if Rhodey's war machine gets damaged in battle, who would be able to repair it now that Tony's gone? Good question. That's a good question. I don't think Rhodey's war machine armor is built on the magic nanotech that Tony used anymore. So it's probably just a physical machine. He can probably... Now remember, Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell, he was able to modify Rhodey's suit. Remember in that one I remember, Hammer was able to add new weaponry and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess there are people who can do maintenance to the war machine. I'm going to guess. But if it gets like critically damaged and practically has to be rebuilt, who knows? That's a good question. Seb Marvel writes, do you think Endgame can still top Avatar? I do. And I still think it will. But it's running out of time. And it's running out of gas. And it's still like 170 million short. About 175 million short. So we'll see. I don't think it'll catch The Force Awakens, but I do still think it'll catch Avatar. Not by much, but I still think it'll catch it. We'll wait, but it's possible it won't. It's possible it won't. Zane Ramos writes, I personally am very excited for Lord of the Rings series with that huge budget. I especially like the mythical aspect of Game of Thrones, especially the Night King and dragons. I hope we get to see Balrogs. Woo! Well, I mean, I don't know. You know, what's really interesting to me about this Amazon series is they have announced it takes place during the Second Age. Now, the Second Age, for those of you who don't watch this stuff, is the age. Remember the beginning of Lord of the Rings? When you're hearing Cate Blanchett doing the narrations, that basically tells a story about the ring. That there was a last alliance of elves and men that marched against Sauron. The king cut off Sauron's hand, loosing the ring and destroying Sauron. At least they thought that destroyed Sauron, and then the king got the ring. Remember that whole backstory? That event is the ending of the Second Age. They're saying that this Lord of the Rings show is going to take place in the Second Age. So what kind of stuff they're going to put in there, Zane, I don't know. But I'm with you. I'm very excited about this. Amazon is sparing no expense on this thing. They're spending like $750 million on the series after spending like over $200 million just on the rights. They're going all in on this. I can't wait. I don't know how long we're going to have to. We're probably going to have to wait till like 2022 or something till it finally comes out. But I'm very excited for it. I'm stoked. Can't wait to see what they're going to do. All right. Murray Reich writes, how does the distribution work when it comes to Harry Potter parks? Does Warner Brothers get commission or Universal or both? I have no idea. Look, they have to license the rights, the theme park rights. They're like anything else. They get licensed out. So I'm guessing that Universal gets to make these parks and run these parks, and they probably have to pay a licensing fee to Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling and all that kind of stuff too. So that's probably how it works, just like anything else. I don't know for sure. I'm not an expert on theme parks, but that's my guess on how it's probably arranged. Javier Rios 405 writes, your intros, that was a little bit earlier because I had the musical problem with the intro looping. There you go. A fan of Peanuts writes, John, your input again. Yep, I knew. That's why I had to stop and start again. Eat That Horse writes, I hope you're able to eventually cover Doom Patrol. I'm only 8 episodes in, and I think this is unquestionably in the top 3 superhero shows ever. I'm telling you what, man, I am loving it. I wish I had started reviewing the show, but I didn't. Maybe if they do get renewed for season 2, I will probably do an episode by episode recap like I do for Game of Thrones now. I'll probably do that for Doom Patrol. I probably will, because I'm loving this show, man. Absolutely so bonkers and wacky and off the wall, but deep and brave, and they are not afraid to touch a lot of very important subjects. I just love what they're doing with it. Zuza Yu writes, music is on loop. Yep. Super Green fan. John, the thing's looping. Yep. I figured that out. How long do you think, Seb Marvel writes, how long do you think the MCU will go on for? As long as they keep making the movies well and the audiences are enjoying it. You can't even possibly begin to make a guess outside of that. If we ever start to sense that it's slowing down, then we can start making a guess about how much longer it can go. But right now it's going strong. And until they start making several films in a row that aren't very high quality and the audiences don't like that much, it's going to be really, really hard to call anything. Could be another 4 years, could be another 14 years. I mean, it'll come to an end eventually, but right now it's really hard to say. Suthius writes, Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, Heart. By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Call me crazy. I've always wanted to see a live action version. I'm not going to call you crazy, Suthius. I will admit I've never been amongst that. I've never been one to want a Captain Planet film. I've never been particularly excited about the possibility of one. So I'm not, but I know you're not alone. I know you're not alone. There are other people who've been wanted. There have been some spoof things done and all that kind of stuff. I'm not one of them, but I know a lot of people do. Let's see. Ian Buck writes, from Wisconsin, Bucks in 4. No, I don't think Bucks in 4. Probably in 5. I think Toronto will pull out one game. Like I said, I actually think Toronto would have beaten the Golden State Warriors. I think Toronto, if you watch them play each other, Toronto matches up very well against the Golden State Warriors. But I said going into the series, they do not match up as well against the Bucks. And I actually think the Raptors would do better against the Warriors than the Bucks will. But I never thought that the Raptors match up well against the Bucks. I think the Bucks have a really good matchup against the Raptors. And I wish I could say I'm surprised by the way the series has been going, but I'm not. I do think Toronto will pull out at least one game, though. I think they will pull out at least one game. Let's see. Lad is also mentioning music's on a loop. Dirk writes, I can listen to the Campea theme music loop forever. Again, remember, this is from earlier today when I tried to do the show live, but there was a glitch and the music kept looping. That's when I stopped the show and just decided to do it pre-recorded so everybody's questions could be answered clearly. Let's see. A fan of Peanuts writes, my Game of Thrones prediction is Dany kills Tyrion. Jon refuses to follow her. Arya watching. Jon and remaining men stand trial. Arya starts getting... Okay, I'll have to go down and try to get to fan stuff. Arya getting flashbacks, watching Jon be excited. Similarly, I think you probably meant to write executed. Similarly to watching her father die. Dany gets Drogon to burn Jon. Arya, I don't think Jon can be burned, though, by Dragonfire because he's a Targaryen. Arya leaps and kills Dany. Grey Worm blocks Arya. They fight. Jon jumps on Grey Worm, knocking Arya aside. Dragon hits Jon and Grey Worm with Fire Blast. Grey Worm disintegrates. Arya yells no, looks for Dany for her final kill, but Jon leaps out of the fire immune and jumps in between Arya and Dany. Arya hits Jon instead with a dagger. This is getting really specific. Arya hits Jon instead with the dagger. Dany cries. Arya cries. Jon dies. He reminds her to break the wheel. Dany tells, never got around to part 6, fan of Peanuts. Never got around to part 6. Oh, well, look, we did a whole... I did an entire Game of Thrones... yeah, there we go. I did a whole Game of Thrones final predictions last night. What I think is going to have happen here, and again, I'm probably wrong on 90% of this, but here's what I think is going to have happen. Dany kills Tyrion. Jon finally realizes for the good of the kingdom, Dany's got to go. I think she may even kill, by Grey Worm or somebody else, may kill Jon. I think Bran wargs into the dragon and then rips Dany apart, kills Dany with the dragon. I don't think she kills Jon, but I think Jon is back up against it. She's going to send the dragon to kill Jon. Bran wargs into the dragon, and then Bran in the dragon takes out her. Jon Snow is now given or offered the Iron Throne. He says, I don't want it. He wants to go back up and live with the wildlings. He wants to go live north of the wall. That was alluded to earlier in an earlier episode. And I think he gives the throne to Gendry Baratheon, who is the legitimate heir to the throne. Remember, the Targaryen line is a deposed line. They've been deposed. The rightful heir to the throne is Gendry Baratheon. And some people have complained, but he can't because he's a bastard. Well, so is Jon Snow when they named him King in the North. But even if you have a problem, well, he's a bastard, therefore he can't be the king. Remember, Daenerys reinstated his name. So he's been legitimized. Technically speaking, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne is Gendry Baratheon. So I think Jon is going to be offered the throne. He's going to say he doesn't want it, and he's going to give it to a Baratheon. So again, it returns to the status they were when Game of Thrones began. A Baratheon on the throne and Starks as the Wardens of the North. And that's why I think Sansa is going to be named Warden of the North. Jon will go off to live with the wildlings, and we'll see what happens. Now, I heard another really interesting theory that Daenerys wins. She kills Tyrion, she kills Jon, she kills Arya. Well, not just her, but her dragon, her armies, whatever. But Brienne of Tarth, who has sworn an oath to Sansa's mother to protect her children, she gets Bran out. And they go into the woods where Bran runs into the last of the Forest Children. And the Forest Children turns Bran into the new Night King. It's interesting too. So you got to have a real dark ending to this, like a Shakespearean tragedy ending to this. A lot of things we're going to find out. Okay. Interesting, very detailed theories on that, Penis. We'll see if that all turns out. All right. Dylan Trost writes, I saw The Phantom Menace 7 times in theaters at age 7, but never saw the ending because I told my parents I felt sick every time the final fight started. Too intense. This is when my lifelong Star Wars obsession began. It's funny that you saw it that many times, though, and never saw the ending. That's funny. And again, it speaks to the subjectivity of film. I hate that movie, but I love that there are other people who enjoy it and love it. So that's great. So we don't share an opinion on it, but I could share my love that you love it. And that's great, and that's awesome. And whatever starts your love affair with Star Wars is all that matters to me. So thanks for sharing that. But it is funny, man, that you never had a chance to see the ending of it all those initial times. All right. Ben is also writing that the intro music is looping. We already did Fan of Peanuts. Bill Brackett writes, hey, John, big fan and have been since the AMC days. Well, thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate that. I was wondering if you ever watched The Shield. Oh, yes, I did, with Michael Chiklis. Was on FX, starred Michael Chiklis. If not, I highly recommend it. It is currently on Hulu. I love The Shield. It's probably in my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. It's not my top 5, but it's definitely in my top 10. And it's one of those shows that I was late to the party on. I didn't get caught onto it till like near the end of the second season. Then I went back, watched the first season, then I watched it through to the end. Really sharp show, really good show, very influential show as well. Hey guys, now that this season of television is all wrapping up for most of the shows, if you're looking for something to watch, highly recommend. If you haven't checked out The Shield before, follow Bill's advice, go back, I guess it's on Hulu, binge that series. It's totally worth it. One of the best cop dramas ever made. All right. Ant Banks 1984 writes, every time Sharon Carter and Steve Rogers are in the same room, the song, If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right, starts playing. I've never noticed that. That's a really interesting piece of trivia, Banks. I've never noticed it. It is so, it's like the Peggy Captain America romance has been one of the really sweet spots of the MCU. They used it very sparingly. So when they did use it, it was always impactful. That scene in Endgame when he's standing on the opposite side of the glass, and you could just tell he wanted so badly to just knock on the window and talk to her. Beautiful scene, beautifully done. Okay, Jared McBride writes, Avengers Endgame is at $2.6 billion now. Yep, they still got about $175 million to go. Will it? I think it will, but it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. Fayant Productions writes, a little detail that people don't realize in the MCU is that Iron Man right arm has been bothering him since the first Iron Man movie. Look it up. Well, if that's true, they never looked like it. But now I'm going to have to go back and watch all the MCU stuff and see if he's ever favoring the right arm, because I never noticed it. I never noticed him favoring one arm over the other. But that is an interesting piece of trivia that I've not been aware of. That's one of the things I love about doing this show and doing open mic stuff, is that you guys throw in some of this great, not only trivia stuff and interesting facts, but something like that. See, that's something I never knew. I got to go look that up now. Thank you for sharing that, dude. I appreciate that. All right. JCL Productions writes, Bran decides to warg into Dany's dragon when Drogon is about to burn Tyrion alive for setting his brother free. Drogon's mouth lifts her up and shakes her around violently. She's hurt very bad, and Jon Snow walks over to her on the ground and says, bend the knee. She yells, Dracarys, and nothing happens. Then Snow kills her with Jorah's father. Ooh, that's dark. That's dark. Now, okay. Few things. I think Jon is disillusioned with Dany, but I don't think he hates her. I don't think he would go over to her and say, bend the knee. Like, I don't think he hates her. I think he knows what has to be done, but I think he regrets that it has to be done. So I don't see anything like that. But, oh man, you went to a dark place there, JCL. You went to a dark place. Kills her with Jorah's sword. Oh, that's dark. By the way, did he ever take that sword back, or did they burn him with it? I have a feeling they would have burned Jorah with his father's sword. I think he would have gone down with his sword. Maybe not. Maybe at that point he took the sword back. I don't know. But, killing Dany with the sword of the man who loved her more than anybody else in the world. That's again, JCL, that is dark. That is some dark stuff you're bringing out there. All right. Then again, more stuff about the music. The only thing. Yeah. Let's see. Corey Holzer just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. Patrick Conway writes, confession time. I struggle to stay awake watching Star Wars episodes 1 through 4, but I enjoyed every other one, with The Force Awakens and Solo being my favorites. Interesting. Look, I love The Force Awakens. And I really enjoyed Solo a lot. I thought Solo was a great, fun space adventure movie. I thought it was great. Not a big fans of 1 through 3, but hey, you know what? I think Star Wars Episode 4, 5, and 6 are the greatest films ever made, so that's where I'm coming from. But again, it's a subjectivity film. Doesn't mean they're all going to work for you. And if Episode 4 didn't work for you, then it didn't work for you. I'm with you on 1 through 3. They don't work for me either, but I love 4, you don't. And that's what being film fans are all about. All right, Gaither Lessage writes, have you seen Hotel Mumbai? Great movie with Depp Patel. No, it's Depp Patel, Armie Hammer as well. I have been dying to see this movie. I have not had the opportunity to see it. I finally had a free night the other day, and I remember me and my buddy were talking. It's like, oh, I want to see this Hotel Mumbai with Dev Patel, Armie Hammer, and it wasn't playing anywhere near us. So I have not seen it yet, but I am dying to see that one. All right, let's see. Seb Marvel, will Endgame beat Avatar? I believe it will. It's going to be close. It's running out of time, but I do believe it will get over that last hump. Dirk Walker writes, that intro music rocks pretty hard, though. There you go. Ramit Mittal writes, how will they end Arrow in Crisis Crossover? Well, I'm not really sure. Here's the interesting thing, though. Stephen Amell, who plays Arrow, he's already said that he's going to pop up in the Arrowverse every once in a while. So I think it's pretty clear they're not going to kill him off. I don't think he's going to die. I think maybe he has to take on some sort of cosmic responsibility. I don't know for sure, but it sounds like every once in a while he'll pop up in the Arrowverse in a guest star role from time to time. So it sounds like he's not going to die. So that opens up some possibilities. I think he needs to leave Earth to take on some sort of cosmic responsibility. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I'm guessing right now. Saber writes, the end of an era won't be the same without Game of Thrones. It is weird. It is hard to imagine the world where there's not Game of Thrones coming. It is really odd that this series is ending so strange, but don't worry, we've got a prequel series coming, so keep your eyes open for that. All right, the Crone Doggy writes, over under 10% that when Lucas dies, we'll find out he spent his twilight years doing the weird, smaller indie films that he once said he'd do. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll take over 10%. I mean, it's not a 50% chance, but over 10%. George is an artist. He loves movies. He loves storytelling. I think he's probably kept himself involved, but very quietly doing it. I think at some point we'll find out George has been involved in a lot of stuff that maybe he just doesn't let his name be attached to. I wouldn't be surprised if we find that out at all, Crone Dog. Yeah, I think you're really onto something there. All right. The hero writes, hey, John, unmute me. I was spamming for theme. I didn't mute. Maybe one of my moderators did that. Maybe they didn't understand what it was. But if you were muted, don't worry. It's muted. Muting only lasts for a few minutes anyway, so don't worry about it. Edgar Navarro writes, John, I finally understand why you don't like working for the corporate overlords, and I think it's time for a change. Well, look, working for corporate overlords, and I've been lucky in my career that I've worked for some pretty good corporate overlords. I have. Like, I worked with AMC, other than their brain-dead, idiotic pack of morons that they call their HR department. I really enjoyed working with AMC. I've been lucky that way. But for me, what really became a frustrating thing, and I think there's many professions you can be in where working for corporate overlords can be a great thing and can be a great experience. For me, it was the realization that I am killing myself building these things that don't belong to me. I'm building these networks and these shows and these careers, and I'm building all this stuff. And at the end of the day, none of it belongs to me. That tomorrow, should some corporate overlord wish it, they could fire me and none of it is mine. I built it. I just realized that, why am I doing that? Why am I spending all of my creative energy and all of my energy and effort and doing all of that stuff, building and creating all this stuff, and I could be fired tomorrow. And that works very well for some people, but it did not work for me. And so when I started to become unhappy with a few other things, it was just, there are many pieces of the puzzle that led me to want to leave where I was at. There are many pieces of the puzzle. There's no one big thing. But one of the big things was I started to really obsess on that notion that I'm bending over backwards and killing myself and pouring all my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and I have no ownership of it. I don't get to reap any of the benefits of it. And that was just one of the things that contributed to me being, now there were other things that were making me unhappy, but that was definitely one of them. Now, again, that's not true for everybody. You can be in a wonderful corporate environment, working for fantastic corporate overlords and have very fulfilling, great work, great salary, great benefit, and that's wonderful. It's just that I was in a particular situation where it was no longer working for me. And I made a vow I would never work for anybody else again. I will never have a boss that is not me. And that's not for everybody, not at all. But I just found if I'm going to do this sort of thing, I'm never going to have a boss again. I'm never going to work for anybody else. And I've had offers and I've had opportunities and all that kind of stuff. And even the stuff I did with the stream, they made it clear, you're not working for us. You're going to be one of the owners. And you're going to be this, that, and the other thing. And so even when I was doing stuff with the stream, it was on that level. And I love the people there. But yeah, it's just as long as like if I went back into law, clearly I would go and have a boss again. If I decided to work in a studio environment, I would have a boss, and that's all fine. But I just decided for me, if I'm going to do this sort of thing, I'm not going to have a boss. And that will be limiting because that means it's just me with my own resources, and that's fine as long as the things I'm building belong to me. And I thought that was important for me and myself. My wife has been not only supportive, but encouraging me to do that. Like I remember coming home and telling her, and finally saying to her, honey, I'm thinking about quitting my job and just working for myself from home. And it'll be a struggle, and I'll be lucky if I make $200 a month to start and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's something I should do. And my wife was just, you're damn right. That's what you should do. You're damn right. That's what you should do. And like, she wasn't just supportive. She massively encouraged me to, and it's been great for me. And I've really enjoyed it. And I love where I'm at. And there are risks and there's downsides to everything. Yes, but it's what worked for me. And anyway, Edgar, all of that is just to say that each individual needs to evaluate what it is, the type of work that they do, what makes them happy, what doesn't make them happy. And I think for most people, working in a really good, positive corporate environment can be the absolute best thing. But there's some things you could be doing that maybe it doesn't make it the best thing for you. And I happen to find myself in that situation. Maybe that's true for you as well, or maybe not. But only you can decide that for yourself. So good luck as you start some introspection, you start self-evaluating, deciding where you're at. I hope you come to the wisest and best decision. All right. Last two questions of the day. Evan Tainment writes, can't wait for John Wick 4. He's pissed. Hell yeah. I am very excited for John Wick 4 now. Super stoked for John Wick 4. Nerds of Porn writes, will the Wick box office certify a fourth one? No doubt. Remember, the biggest opening that a John Wick film had was part 2 at $30 million opening. It's almost doubled that. This one's opened now to $57 million, almost doubling what John Wick 2 did. I don't know that there's a harder lock guarantee of a sequel than this one. They will definitely make a sequel of this. They're definitely going to do a fourth. I think absolutely. Even if it wasn't a sure thing before, box office results absolutely justify that. So I think we will. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much. And for those of you who watched the original live stream where all that music loop was happening because of the glitch, my deepest apologies for that. I hope this has made up for it. Hey, listen, if you're watching this earlier on Sunday, don't forget later tonight, myself and Kaori Takei, we're going to be doing our final Game of Thrones episode wrap-up video. Come on back and talk to us tonight about everything that happened in Game of Thrones tonight. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me for now. My name is John Campea. Until next time, bye-bye.